The captain's been taken. I'd be scared, but he seems just a little bit shaken. Trip is in command. Hopefully Malcolm can lend a hand. Is this the hottest decon scene by far? Or is it just to Paul going through upon far?
Oh, very clever.
I'm Justin.
I'm Josh.
And this is From There to Here. Welcome, everyone. Today is Season 2, Episode 25, Bounty. And according to IMDb, the description is, after exploring an uninhabited planet, Captain Archer is taken prisoner by a Tellarite bounty hunter who was hired by the Klingons to return Archer to Kronos. If you're curious, I happen to know the IMDb score.
Well, I had mentioned to you before we started recording that I accidentally did see it last week. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it's somewhere in the 6.5 range. Am I right?
It is. Well, okay.
What's so complicated?
It is 6.9.
Oh, 6.9.
I was going to ask you what your IMDb rating score would be, but I guess that's really whatever.
Irrelevant.
I guess that's more my thing when you read it.
Maybe. I guess it would be in the sevens, probably between 7 and 7.5, maybe low sevens. It would, yeah. Something
Okay.
Like that.
But no, 6.9, which is pretty low.
Yeah, it's a bit lower than it deserves, I would say.
I think so. Again, I will say I think people are just trashing it because it's got Enterprise in the title.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. So on Wikipedia, there's some production info that I'll read. Robert O'Reilly, who played the bounty hunter Kago Dar, previously played the Klingon Chancellor Gowron in Star Trek The Next Generation. Did you know that, everybody? And Deep Space Nine. Did you know that? He was particularly grateful for the job. Is that true? I guess.
Well, with eyes like that, I mean, he's probably not cast as the boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know?
Having recently become father to triplets at the time. That's why he felt grateful. Jordan Lund, who plays the bounty hunter Skalar, previously appeared in Star Trek The Next Generation as a Klingon and in Deep Space Nine as a Bajoran. His Klingon character, Kolj, was killed by Gowron.
That's
The
funny.
second Tellarite, Skalar's brother, Gavreen, was played by Ed O'Ross. I don't know who that is.
I don't either.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But that's all there is. It was directed by Roxanne Dawson.
Yes.
I did notice that. It doesn't say that here specifically, but I did notice it during the credits. So she's done a handful by this point.
Yeah. Right along with LeVar Burton and
Tom Paris.
Tom Paris. Yeah.
So
those two really segued into
They did.
behind the scenes stuff.
they really did.
From what I don't know where
They took the Frakes route.
they did, and I forget if I saw it in an interview or if I read it somewhere, but I'm paraphrasing, but I believe it was said that Robert Duncan McNeil took to the directing stuff pretty quickly, kind of like Frakes. He's just kind of a natural, but Dawson, although she's turned out to be very, very good, she had a little bit more of a learning curve period.
Okay.
But she is now developed into a very reliable director. That's what I remember reading. Anyway, I don't have a personal comment on it. Just I remember seeing that or reading it. One of the two.
Well, about Bounty.
Yeah.
The quicker quilter picker-upper.
The quilting quicker picker up.
New quilted bounty.
What do you think?
Thicker quilter.
What do you
picker-upper.
think about paper towels? No. What do you think about this episode?
You know, it's good. It's a good little episode. It's not great. When Phlox says, "Okay, it's time to go in the decon chamber," and they cut to the close-ups of them lubing each other up.
Right.
You and I both were like, "Oh, groan!" Because honestly, other than the stuff with Archer on the Tellarite ship, I had completely forgotten
So
the rest of the episode.
I didn't remember anything about it.
Yeah, fair enough. So when that decon bit started, I thought, "Oh Christ, here we go." But as it actually played out, I got a little more into it because I think they got away from the whole gratuitous decon stuff, even though she's obviously very exposed.
Well, it was still gratuitous, though, beyond that.
I got into the shtick of her going through the Ponfar. And
But it was so shamelessly done, though.
I know.
Don't you think?
I know, but I felt like she was having fun with it. He was having fun with it. I don't know. I enjoyed that little bit. I'm not saying it should. I'm not supportive of it being in the decon chamber. I think they should have just been stuck in a room.
Okay. I'm not supportive of it being in Star Trek at all. Like this kind of
A Ponfar
this
thing?
kind of bait.
Oh, wow.
This TNA bait. If this was Baywatch, I wouldn't have a problem with that. That's what that show is about.
Well,
but
you
it's
know-
not. This is Star Trek. It's supposed to be about higher minded things.
I know. But if you think about it, Voyager 2 times pulled the Ponfar card. They did it once with Ensign, what was his name? Ensign, not the guy from TNG.
Yeah, but it was a guy's.
A guy Ponfar.
Yeah,
But then I think he bit
bit
B'Elanna,
yeah.
and then she started going through it.
But it wasn't like this.
But she was all hot and horny trying to get it on
But
with.
not like this.
I agree. I'm making the point of it's been done slightly more classy than this.
In quotes,
Yeah.
classy in quotes.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean, okay. I think you're just grasping at straws here with that one.
I enjoyed watching Jolene Blalock.
I didn't
It
mind.
was fun.
I thought she did a good job.
I'm not saying it wasn't gratuitous. It was.
I feel embarrassed for the showmakers, for her, that they're reducing themselves to this
Mhm.
in a Star Trek show.
Would you have felt the same way had they been stuck in decon, but she was wearing sweatpants?
It would have been less egregious.
But still the workout top
Oh, the tank top, her
with
booby, her
with
booby
no
top.
bra, as she never wears.
For some reason, yeah, I think that would hurt her back, but a little bit. I mean, it would be lessened, but it would still have a similar effect. I think.
Okay,
You don't think so?
it would have been less gratuitous for
Well,
sure.
I mean, what if? I don't know why Murphy Brown just popped into my head.
Why in God's name are you?
I don't know. Let's say we were watching Murphy Brown, and for one episode they decided to have, all the women walk around topless. I'm like, I wouldn't mind, but I'm like, you're
Like
kind of
Sue Ellen Mishke.
sure, yeah, okay, walking around like Sue Ellen Mishke. I'm like, I wouldn't mind. It would be entertaining, but I'm like, hey, you're kind of harming the show by doing this, aren't you? You're kind of lowering the bar.
I certainly agree with you. There was no reason
That's for all you
this
Murphy
needed
Brown
to
fans
happen
out there.
Yeah, there was no reason this needed to happen in decon with them, with her disrobed
Mhm.
the way she was there. This would have played out perfectly fine if she was clothed,
Mhm.
or in some sort of casual wear. Even, it didn't need to be like that. It doesn't hurt to watch her like that, but at least once they got done with the whole lubing up scene,
Mhm.
even though she was down to her skivvies.
Did you like the part where they focused in on their feet?
Yeah,
That's for all the people with the foot fetishes out there.
yeah. Quentin Tarantino probably loved this one. But outside of the scene where they're rubbing themselves down with the decon gel,
Mhm.
even though she was down to her skivvies, honestly, after a while, I kind of tuned out to that. I mean, I was aware of it, of course,
Mhm.
but I didn't feel like they were lingering on it. They just let it be, not to say that it needed to be there. But after a few minutes, it just became the setting,
Mhm.
and I really wasn't paying attention to it. I was honest to goodness, I'm not just saying this, I was more watching her face and watching what she was doing, because she's a good actress. And she was having, as long as she doesn't have to play holding her emotions,
As long as she
back,
doesn't look constipated.
as long as she's not fighting
Where's
her
the constipation
emotions,
come in?
she's good. She
Yeah.
was having, I felt like she was having a good time with it.
It certainly seemed that way.
It
but
did. It did.
That's
So,
irrelevant. I mean, I could really care less most of the time what the actor's feeling, as long as their performance comes through.
Well, and I thought her performance came through.
Well, no, it was good. But, I think to Paul, Jolene Blalock, right? She's clearly there for, okay, she can play a Vulcan well. She's a good actress.
Yeah.
But she's there for sex appeal.
Clearly.
That just like Jerry Ryan was there for sex appeal. But it's not supposed to be something. Who was it that said this? Was it Billy Crystal when admiring a painting?
Mm.
Like, I admire it, but I don't pull it off the wall. Right? Does that sound familiar?
Yes, but now you're going to drive me crazy with
Okay,
that.
but that's what this is supposed to be. You can admire it. You're not supposed to pull it off the wall and get a close up of it. It's not supposed to be that way. It's taboo. And I feel like whenever they do something like this, they're crossing the line, and you can't go back after that. You're never supposed.
Well, they crossed the line in the pilot episode.
I know
when they
they've
did their
gone. They've
decon.
constantly gone too far.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have this beautiful woman that's great to look at, but she doesn't have that sexual energy. But she's there, and she's there for everyone to see. But as soon as you cross it, it's over. And they broke it, man. It's over.
I'm not disagreeing with you as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Doesn't seem like you care about the opinion very much, though.
No, it's not that. It's just on, like I said, it's just after that initial bit where they're putting the lotion on.
It puts the lotion on its skin.
and T'Pol started acting all hot and bothered. I kind of just went, got into the scene for what it was.
I got into the scene. It was funny.
I was always aware, of course, and whenever they cut to a wide shot, of course, I'm looking at Jolene Blaylock. But once the scene was in motion, it never took me out of the scene. I'll say that. For whatever that's worth. When they started lubing up, yes, totally checked out. But once the scene proper started to play, I was invested in it, and I really wasn't thinking about it.
Okay. Well, I think I made my point clear. So
Right.
now that we've brought up the elephant in the room about this episode, you want to move on to our discussion questions that we have?
Absolutely.
Okay. Before we accidentally cover anything that's already in the questions.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So from our faithful listener and writer, Sebastian, he writes on Bounty, question number 1. I really like that the Tellarites are insulted if you don't insult them. I would have loved a Tellarite crew member on board of the Enterprise as a recurring character. What do you think? Think that would work?
That actually probably would have been a lot of fun.
Okay. Maybe as a pilot. Oh, like as a pilot. Okay.
Travis, warp 1. I'm already at warp 1. No, you're not. You're warp 9.9. All right, fine.
Wouldn't this have been the perfect opportunity for some organically developing comic relief situations? Just imagine how Archer would have to phrase his commands to the pilots. That's what you just did. So that they're rude enough.
Can you imagine lunch with T'Pol and the Tellarite pilot?
Yeah.
I saw you made a course correction today. Oh, well, why don't you just do my job then? I'll go ahead and be the science officer. Excuse me. Please take my food up. I'm going to go be the science officer. Goodbye, everybody.
Would his whole arc be that he becomes more human and learns to be tolerant?
Absolutely not. Should never happen. T'Pol doesn't become more human. She's still a Vulcan.
She grows accustomed to them.
She gets accustomed to them.
She softens to it a little bit.
Yeah, but you should never. No, he's a Tellarite. Which, by the way, since he mentioned that in his discussion question, they say that in dialogue at the beginning of the episode. Yet the entire time Archer is on that ship with the Tellarite captain, they don't bicker. They don't argue. He's making a case to keep himself alive, but there's none of that Tellarite feistiness.
Maybe it's only with other Tellarites.
No, we've seen that. We've seen it in Journey to Babel in the original series, which is no doubt what they were referencing.
Yeah, as Tellarites go, he was pretty even-tempered.
Yeah, like, come on. You can't have a Tellarite on there and not do that. And they totally had him not be basically Tellarite.
Sounds
even
like
when he
the
runs
writing
into
flaw
his
to me.
brother, it's just,
His brother had some sauce.
yeah, but it's just brotherly bickering and arguing. It's not when they describe that, I expect a scene not unlike Coming of Age in TNG. Do you want this to become violent?
Oh, violence.
Okay. Oh, I like you, friend. I will drink with you. Like that. That's what it should have been. And I can't believe they actually played lip service to what Tellarites are like and then literally did none of it.
Well, I agree with you on that one. They didn't.
Not one bit.
Not in this episode, at least.
I think Sebastian's right, though. I think that would have been a blast.
I don't know if they could maintain that for a whole series.
Well, think about it, though.
Unless his character changes, though.
If the Tellarite was the pilot, he'd get about 1 or 2 episodes a season, so it would never run thin. So,
if he's anything like Mayweather.
yeah, he would help everyone. What do you call it when you're mountain climbing, but you're going down?
Rappelling.
Rappelling. he could be rappelling with the guys and go, I'm going faster than you. Ha ha ha. Oh, I broke my leg. Gosh darn it. Whatever. Just have fun with it.
So Sebastian writes in question number 2. So Archer magically frees himself from a Klingon ship as if this was an episode of MacGyver.
Dun, 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 dun,
They have MacGyver in
dun,
Germany.
Dun, dun.
And
What?
What?
What'd you say?
I said, they have MacGyver in Germany.
Oh, okay.
And T'Pol runs around in her underwear with a desperate sexual desire, as if this was the fan fiction of some 13-year-old schoolboy in a porn forum. Hey, that's my fantasy too.
Hey, careful now.
Just kidding.
That's all of us.
Is this the most shark jumping episode of the entire series?
I wouldn't say that, but it definitely has the DNA of what's wrong with the series in there.
Yes.
But no, I don't think this is a shark jumping moment.
Well, if this isn't, what do you think would be?
It's a good question.
Have they jumped the shark already, or is that coming forward?
I don't know. He's got me thinking on that one. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to come back to that. I'm not really sure.
Some would say like Dear Doctor, not Dear Doctor.
No.
A Night in Sickbay is like jumping the shark, maybe.
Gun to my head right now, that I can remember, I don't think this series has a jump the shark moment. It's more of just a steady the shark slid down the...
More slowly being eaten by the shark.
Yeah, by another shark.
It's like watching when, who's the one that gets eaten at the end of Jaws? Is it Quint or...
Yeah.
Is it Quint?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like him being eaten in slow-mo. That's what this is like. I can't say.
Or would it be more accurate to say Enterprise feels like Jaws 3, where you're watching it and you're like, well, the shark's in it, there's action in it, but the best stuff is really already happened.
And the title of it is Jaws.
So I'll be here,
yeah,
but I'm not really feeling the same magic I used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, I kind of like my analogy better. But okay, anyway, I think I agree with you. I don't think there really has been a jump the shark moment. But I think you put your nose on the nail of the thing, whatever you want to call it, this is a symptom of what's wrong with the show.
Yeah.
Where they had given up this decon thing for a while. And
I know when this came up, I thought, really?
Yeah.
They're doing this again?
I thought they had pretty much abandoned it, but we know it comes back in season 3. They're going to have her lubing up Connor Trenier.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
In their quarters. Vulcan neuro pressure.
Well, I remember that.
Maybe they're not lubing each other, but they're massaging each other.
Well, of course they are. And I'm sure there's going to be long extended shots of him rubbing on her back.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So
if I were the director of those episodes, I would say, just like the captain in Superman the movie, when the army guys come across Miss Tessbacher on the ground. This woman needs mouth to mouth. I'll do it, sir. Hold on, son. I would never order something I wouldn't do myself.
Turn around.
Turn around, man.
I think maybe execs at UPN at the time, they were just shooting at the lowest common denominator, it feels like.
It kind of begs the question, was it Paramount? Was it UPN? Or was it Berman? Or was it Berman?
UPN was targeting, if you recall at the time, UPN was really trying to shoot for
that late teen, early 20s audience, just probably.
Like
with
more of a crude kind of audience,
with such
crude humor,
such
kind of
action-oriented shows as Knight Rider, Team Knight Rider.
No, it was worse than that. No, it was like I don't know how to put it other than they were kind of catering toward more of like crude interests. And I think base interests like that. They were going for that demographic, that market. And I think that's why we got stuff like this. Part of the reason. I think it was also because their ratings were suffering. But I mean,
in all fairness, though, it started with Voyager. With 7-Up boobs.
With the nudie stuff? Well, I mean, but that wasn't... I agree. Yes, it did
When you go back and you watch...
It's a slippery slope.
It is. And when you go back and watch Enterprise compared to Voyager, Voyager's tame.
Uh-huh.
At the time, we thought, oh, this is everyone said the exact same things about Voyager that we're saying right now about
7 of
Enterprise.
boobs.
You know, yeah.
Yes.
But then you cut to Enterprise and you're like, wow, they were just getting started, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they make 7 of boobs look like Jessica Fletcher from Murder, She Wrote.
No kidding. Like,
come
seriously.
on. Yeah. It's really embarrassing. Like, I feel embarrassed for the show while
I
I'm
feel
watching
bad
it.
for Jolene Blaylock.
I feel bad for her, yes, but
Yeah.
I mean, she did sign on for this.
She knew what she
She knew what she was getting into.
she knew they were going to do it.
They don't hire a model for her acting abilities. I mean, the fact that she
Well, they
could act
do.
was a bonus.
Yeah. But she knew from the pilot, that decon scene, oh, I see where we're going. You know,
Yeah,
there's no illusions here.
It's not just a Vulcan; it's a hot Vulcan.
Of course it is.
It's like, okay, fine.
Like if it had been that Vulcan from that first season episode, the one that played Data's mom, you know, I don't think we'd see her in the decon scene.
the one that played Data's mom.
Yeah. What is it? Fallen Hero? That's season 1, right? It was the same actress that played Data's mom in TNG.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant Data, like in this series. I was like, where are you going?
No.
Yeah. Okay. No, I got you.
Yeah. If she was cast as
Yes,
T'Pol,
yes,
I don't
yes.
think we would have those scenes.
No. We'd be having tea and crumpets or something. Yeah, totally different vibe. I agree. Okay.
That would have been a bold choice if you think about it.
Yeah, but it probably would. Do you think it would have tanked the show?
I don't think it would have tanked the show, but it definitely wouldn't have helped the ratings.
Yeah, probably not.
So that was his question 1 or question 2?
That was question 2. So I'm pulling up not just questions from our other faithful listener and writer in and honorary member of the podcast, Marie.
Okay.
She has a comment and discussion question. So her comment about Bounty. I'm not crazy about this one. It struggles to maintain a cohesive and compelling narrative, primarily due to its split focus on 2 disparate storylines.
3. There's T'Pol in the decon chamber, Archer on the ship, and Trip. Wait a minute. No, I'm mixing that up.
What are
I
you
thought
thinking
Trip
of?
was doing something with another ship, but I'm just thinking of when Malcolm got in the suit and was going after. My mistake.
Okay, yeah, there's only 2.
Yeah.
Okay. The Archer plotline, though filled with potential, is undermined by cliched elements and predictable twists. Meanwhile, the subplot concerning T'Pol's Ponfar feels forced and sensationalized. Sensationalized? What are you talking about?
No argument there.
Detracting from the episode's overall impact. The episode lacks the depth and innovation seen in other installments of Enterprise, making it a less memorable entry in the series. Well, I can't say I disagree with anything you said. But her question is, how does the subplot involving T'Pol's Ponfar contribute to or detract from the overall narrative of the episode?
I think I kind of hit that.
I think there's 2 reasons.
Okay.
Do you know which 2 reasons I'm
No,
talking about?
please enlighten me. I think I've already given my 2 cents on it.
No.
Oh,
I'm talking about certain assets of Jolene Blaylock.
I was like, waiting. Okay, what's your number 1?
I think there's 2 reasons there. No. Does it add or detract? Well, Justin you said you pretty much already gave your reasoning on that.
Yeah, I don't think it detracts, but it didn't really. It was entertaining, but it didn't add anything.
Well, I mean, they're both, as she points out, they're completely disparate. They don't really connect to each other. They just both happen to be happening at the same time. So
I suppose what could have made that interesting, potentially, is when she starts running her fever and Phlox is scanning her and he says, you have a slight fever, she starts going, so that's how the bit with them starts. Maybe the only way I think we could say that this benefited her or him or the scene or them together would be towards the end of it. He sits her down. He kind of forces her down and he said, I don't meditate. Show me how you do it. And meditating to Vulcans is a very personal experience as well. So if she kind of like Star Trek 3, how Saavik sits there and, very, very slowly runs her fingers over Spock's and back and forth. Now, granted, that led to something different. But the point being is that if Phlox, knowing what he knows about Vulcans, knowing what he knows about her, had sat her down and said, show me how to do this. And he calmed her. It would show him being a good doctor, being a psychiatrist, which he has said before he has degrees in. And it would show her, and this is really the clincher here, it would show her realizing, okay, I have just enough of my logical faculties to hear what you're saying and to try and do it. And for them together to actually share a very intimate mental thing. You know, maybe even she could say, can I touch your hand? Because it will somehow, it's not a mind meld, but it'll connect me to you. Can I do that? And him being, and he talks about this in this episode. He said, what's his species?
What?
Phlox.
Oh,
Denobulan men don't like to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to do that with her would have been a very personal thing. So for them to share that and then to mentally calm her down through that, that would have been interesting. Like a button to it. Maybe they could have had all the fun hijinks, but maybe end with that. Then I think you could say at least that had some benefit, some character growth, or some character, noteworthy character interaction.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it may have brought them a bond that they could share throughout the rest of the series. Like they had that bonding moment. Yeah, I could see that.
And being the doctor, he would never share it.
And there was a little bit of that in there in the way they ended it with T'Pol asking him,
right.
Well, let's not bring this up. Oh, I wouldn't, doctor patient privilege, what have you.
But did you notice what she said? She wakes up and she goes, I didn't do anything appropriate, did I? Did we? And he goes, oh, well, I don't like to talk about it. Like he didn't say no.
No, that's true. He didn't.
I really thought he was going to say something, but he literally left her hanging with, wait, did I? Did we?
Oh, well, I guess he didn't actually give an affirmative answer. No,
he did not.
No, that's true.
Maybe he just wanted to keep that in the bank so one day he could show up at her door going, hey, we did it once.
Yeah.
Let's move on from that subplot.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Archer Tellarite stuff? She said it was cliched and something.
I don't remember per se what she said.
I know she mentioned cliched.
Is undermined by cliched elements and predictable twists.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's true. It's completely obvious where that is going. The Tellarite, as you cogently pointed out, doesn't act like a Tellarite.
Not at all.
He seems to be reasonably intelligent, and he even points out that, well, I'd have to be a fool to turn off that force field. And then 5 seconds later, he does.
Yeah.
And he lets Archer fly the ship. And then
lets Archer work on it.
And then he acts surprised when Archer tries to sabotage it. Yeah. It's like, dude, you're taking him to be executed. What do you think he's going to do?
That's literally what Archer said.
I know. It's like, okay. So, yeah, I mean, it was fine.
At least they did that.
I didn't mind the actor playing the Tellarite. I thought he did a good job, even though he wasn't acting like a Tellarite. Right. I thought that he was believable as this kind of down on his luck guy. He just wanted his ship back. And I
as a character, he was consistent. He just wasn't consistent with being a Tellarite.
I think the writers did a good enough job making him a sympathetic kidnapper. Like, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, you like the guy.
I felt bad for him, and I felt bad for him when he got back to wherever it was they were going, and his brother said, "Oh, well, your ship is gone." Yeah. They cannibalized it. The Klingons did it. And you see his heartbreak. You're like, oh no, like all my dreams, it's gone. You're like, well, now I feel bad for this kidnapper. Good job, episode. So
this will be the stage where the prisoners move on to the Helsinki syndrome.
Mm-hmm. You mean
or Helsinki suite?
No, he said Helsinki, as in Helsinki, Sweden, Finland.
Right.
That's Harvey Johnson. So as a what is this, the A or the B plot? Which one's which?
I would say the
That's Archer's the A plot.
Archer technically is probably the A plot, but
Yeah.
they feel rather equal.
They do.
That's not a bad thing.
No, A or B. I mean, I think it functioned just fine on its own. The same thing with the T'Pol plot functioned just fine on its own. The Archer part feels a bit underwhelming.
Mhm.
You know, it's very contained. They're literally in one set for the most part of it. It's not grand. It's not much of a spectacle. I never felt like Archer's life was in danger.
No, not one bit.
Never once felt like he's not going to get away. I was like, okay. So I mean, if there was a bit of that, I don't. How could they have added some actual believable danger to that plot? What do you think?
I think the only way to have done that would be to eliminate the Tellurite's personality being what he was. You'd have to start from scratch and have him be completely contemptible, because you can't feel any threat when you feel the softness in that guy. So if they're going to do that, he has to be contemptible, which means regardless of what happens with his brother and all that stuff, at the end of the episode, Archer escapes. The only way this episode should end at that point is the Tellurite captain being captured by the Klingons, and you know what
that
fate
means
is coming.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only way. And instead of this, friendly dialogue he's having with Archer throughout the whole thing, it should be,
Right.
I'm innocent. Sit down. But sit down.
Yeah.
It's just constant.
Well, there was a moment in the beginning of the hostage crisis, when
Some sort of
hostage crisis, when Archer starts to talk to him from the other side of the force field.
Yeah.
And he says maybe a few things, and then the Tellurite turns to him and says, well, would you rather spend the rest of this trip unconscious or conscious? And he's pointing his phaser at him. I'm like, well, why don't you just shoot him and put him unconscious?
I know, it makes no sense.
Why keep him awake?
Like gas him from the back.
Yeah.
I know. It's
And even Archer might have said, like, okay, I don't want to be awake for this trip. Like, okay.
give me
That's
enough
fine.
to where when the Klingons cut me open, I'm still asleep.
Yeah, it's seemingly smart person making dumb decisions.
Yeah.
And when someone does that, it just strains. It does. It literally strains credibility, because
does.
Any sane person would obviously make the correct choice. And anytime that happens in a movie or a TV show, always takes you out of the moment. It could have easily been fixed. I think you're right. If they'd written that Tellurite better,
Yeah.
in a way that was at least believable, to where it felt like this Archer was actually in danger. But
The whole episode played it safe.
and we said that a lot,
Well, it's true.
but I guess it did.
It's true. I think they had a chance to do something interesting with T'Pol and Phlox, and they didn't do it. They could have done the fun shenanigans they did, but then give them something meaningful at the end. But they chose not to do that.
Well, there was actually a comment below the question from Marie. She writes, say what you will about the Michael Burnham show. I mean, Discovery. There is no Borg or Ponfar. Is that true? I don't watch Discovery.
No, there's no Borg or Ponfar, but everyone cries every 30 seconds.
Oh, do they?
And that show consists of two primary elements: crying and self-congratulations. Congratulations.
Did you say congratulations?
It's, the crew going, I love you so much. No, I love you so much. And then it's this: you're the best. No, you're the best. No, you're the best. You're the bestest ever. You're the best ever at everything. That's all that show is. It makes you sick. Michael Burnham cries every episode. It's ridiculous.
Cries over what?
Everything. We're out of milk today. And then they'll go, but you're the best captain. You'll get us milk. And she'll get the milk. And then they'll cry because they got milk. And then they'll all hug. I love you so, so much. And they were doing that by the end of the first season. I love you so, so much.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I gave up on.
I told you this before. I painfully got through 3 seasons, but I refuse to watch season 4, even though I know that's when it wraps up.
I gave up after that third JJ Trek movie.
Yeah, I know you did.
I mean, even the second one was a strain, but that third one was just okay. I can't
say
take
what
this
you will
anymore.
about, new Trek, JJ's 2 movies and then the third one. At least they're entertaining. Whether or not they are actually Star Trek or not, let's put that on the shelf. They are entertaining movies. JJ does, he makes his movies move. You're never bored. They are entertaining.
Are they?
If you sit there and think about them too much, they'll fall apart.
They're flashy, but I mean, that doesn't.
They're a lot of fun. I'll stand by this. Trek 09 and Into Darkness, there's a lot of good things in there, and I enjoy those 2 movies. The third one, I enjoy that one too, but it's not JJ. It's a different vibe, but I still like elements of it. I don't consider any of them Star Trek because they are... These movies were made by people that clearly don't actually like Star Trek, but they're still a lot of fun. If you just put Star Trek at the door, they're fun movies. If Trek 09 had been a whole nother thing, if they called it Star Blazers,
Star Quest,
you probably would like it. But because it's Star Trek, we come in with expectations, and that's what killed it, critically speaking. But I lost my train of thought.
Oh, well, that's not the first time that's happened on this podcast. Usually it's me that loses this train of thought.
I think I was responding to something you said.
It was Marie, her comment about Discovery that kind of started this.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, Discovery. It's nauseating.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
And they sing. Or is that Strange New Worlds?
That Strange New Worlds, that for me, I think it was Sebastian that talked about jumping the shark. That for me thoroughly jumped that shark. I checked out. I can never go back to that show.
Jumped over the shark and then eaten by it.
It was already getting very difficult to watch that show, Strange New Worlds. But that episode, and I sat through the whole thing. I really don't know how to put into words just how off put I was by that episode. I found it frankly offensive.
Explain.
As a Star Trek fan, I felt that was so disrespectful to what Star Trek is as a franchise that I literally could not go back to that show. And it was Gene Roddenberry is no doubt spinning in his grave knowing about that. Rick Berman, I can imagine Rick Berman sitting down to watch. It must be like George Lucas watching new Star Wars going, this is ridiculous garbage. Rick Berman must sit back in his recliner chair in his living room, pop some popcorn, have a beer, and watch Discovery and whatever other garbage they're making now and calling it Star Trek, and just popping that popcorn, having a big old laugh at this because it's not Star Trek anymore. And you and I remember both towards the end of Enterprise's run and maybe even for the first couple of years after Enterprise ended, Berman and Braga were just mercilessly trashed by Trek fans at large. Not everyone, but saying, oh, they killed Star Trek, Berman never let it be this, and Braga's a hack writer, and everyone always talked crap. But now those same people, I would argue, look back and go, well, their worst episode of Voyager or Enterprise was way better than Discovery or Strange New Worlds. No matter what you say about Berman and Braga Trek, bare minimum, they were respectful of the brand. These guys today are not at all. It's sad. It's sickening, honestly, because just like with new Star Wars, they're taking something and it's not even that it's bad. There's bad Trek. We've sat through some of it in this very series, but it's never disrespectful. So you're willing to press on.
You don't think something like the decon scenes are disrespectful?
That rides a line, but I feel like the series as a whole is still respectful to Star Trek. And I can always come back to that.
I think it crosses the line. I don't think it rides a line. I don't think it disrespects it en masse the way something like Star Trek Discovery or Strange New Worlds
yes, does. It is disrespectful, but not to a level that I think I could never watch that show again. Whereas I can literally never watch Strange New World. I was looking for a reason because it was already getting pretty bad. And that was just like, oh, Jesus. Same with Discovery. It literally, it was nauseating. Yeah. I watched it with my son for 3 seasons. And even after that, he was like, Dad, why are we watching this? It was so bad. It is so bad. And even he knows that's not Star Trek. And he doesn't even like Star Trek. But he knew that wasn't it. He knew that.
Yeah, I didn't watch the episode with the singing in it, but I did watch a clip of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I never leave comments on YouTube videos, but I left a hate comment on that one.
Really?
I couldn't help myself.
What'd you say?
Nothing that fantastic. I just wrote something along the lines of, words alone can't describe how much I hate this. Something like that. Because it pissed me off so much. It was horrible. Yeah. And I was like, the internet must know how much I hate this. So I couldn't help myself.
It's awful.
Yeah. And I pressed that thumbs down button many times, but it only lets you do it once. Well, so we were talking about Bounty.
Yeah.
Kind of got a little off.
Sorry about
off
that.
Subject there. This episode is okay overall. I think underwhelming is a good word to put to it. It's just okay. I don't mind watching it. It's not something I'm really going to go back to, but it's not a stinker. But it doesn't really sit with me. I'm not going to remember much about it going forward, which is probably explains why I didn't remember anything going into it right now. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up about it before we move on to grades?
I think as much as, we had our comments about the decon stuff, and we had our comments about the Tellarite not being a Tellarite and he was too nice and all that. But I don't know where I heard this comment. Something saying you could mess up. I'm totally paraphrasing this. You can make mistakes throughout the episode or a movie, but if you stick the landing, if you get the ending right, people will forgive it. And I think with this episode, even though you didn't necessarily love the gratuitousness of the decon chamber, if they had somehow stuck the landing in the end of that part of the plot and somehow gave us something meaningful out of it, I think you would be willing to forgive it a little more. Same thing with the Tellarite stuff. If that had somehow ended in a way, pick your poison, where it was at least memorable, I think you'd forgive the softness of the rest of it. But neither one of them end with any particular impact. And I think that's probably the episode's biggest sin. I'm not saying my little writer's room idea of how Phlox and T'Pol could have had a thing is like the way to do it, but it's a way. Maybe there'd be something else, but have some sort of memorable end, and it didn't. And yeah, Archer got away. We all knew he was going to get away, but have it end in a way that is meaningful. Like literally he was on a ship that was supposed to take him to his death. Yeah. And not once did either one of us feel any threat or anything like that. Not. I'm not saying this is the way to end it, but had that ended with ended the same way with the guy letting him go and yada, yada, yada. And then we see like in a pickup scene at the end, that guy gets captured by Klingons. You're like, holy crap. Like this nice guy's going to die. At least you'd remember it. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but they're all just kind of over and you're like, well, that's it. Oh, okay. I think if they had done something more dramatic in the endings, we would have forgiven the rest. Although I do think the rest should have had more teeth, so to speak. That's what I think.
What if at the end, as the episode plays now, Archer gets taken by the Klingons, but the handcuffs he's in, which the Klingons don't bother to check, by the way.
Right.
has this device in it so he can escape. Okay, so he and the Tellarite colluded together before that scene happened. Fine. Do you think it would have made it more dramatically impactful if maybe before that scene there was an additional scene where he and the Tellarite are talking, and Archer starts to feel sorry for him enough to actually want to help him. He's like, okay, we'll come up with this plan, and you'll still get paid, but the Klingons will get me, and you'll put this thing in my handcuffs so I can get out. And they agree to it. But then the second the Klingons come on board, instead of giving them money, they just kill the Tellarite right there.
I don't remember that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. And then Archer's like, well, I guess that part of the plan's a wash. I hope my whatever thing in my handcuffs works.
That would have been interesting. It would have been in character for Klingons.
And maybe he takes something to give back to his brother Tellarite, like something he left.
Sure,
behind.
why not?
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
At least they would have stuck the landing.
And maybe with T'Pol, this could have been something that maybe it would have affected the rest of the series. Maybe she would have had to have mated with someone.
Actually do it?
Yeah.
They flirted with that in those 2 other episodes of Trek, so maybe they actually have someone actually do it.
Maybe it had to be Phlox, and she and Phlox have a child.
Oh shit.
And that's something that affects the whole series after that.
That would have been interesting.
Think about that.
I don't know if that's the way to go.
I don't know, but you would have remembered it, wouldn't you?
You certainly would have remembered it. You
Yes.
sure would have.
Yes.
If they, the showrunners, had known the direction that things would go with T'Pol and Trip, maybe they would have done that. Maybe they would have put them in the decon chamber.
Yeah, maybe.
And had them just do it.
Yeah.
And have them go, this was just business, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
just business.
Then they grow
And then a
emotional
little while
bond.
later, I'm late. No,
Yeah.
your shift started 10 minutes ago. You're fine. No. Oh my God.
Vulcans get late too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That would have been potentially very interesting.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
It happened with the unwritten
Big risk
script for Star Trek 3.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
that would have been.
unwritten.
I really wanted that to happen.
It did happen. It was in the
but they
novelization.
cut it out.
It was in the strip.
They cut it
Yeah,
out.
but they cut it out.
Yeah.
That would have been.
If it made the movie, I would have been very happy with
Oh,
that.
that would have been so
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you grade this episode?
You go first. I don't want to go first.
I feel like you're starting to say that every time now.
It's not true.
Okay. B minus.
All right. That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
B minus.
Okay. B minus.
I was entertained
So
for
was
the
I.
episode. Passively, I knew everything that was coming.
Yes.
Sure. But I was entertained.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't commit the sin of being boring.
No.
And like I said, forgetting
As a dumb male, I didn't
Sure.
mind seeing some TNA.
not at all.
I was fine with it.
And Blaylock had a good time with it. I felt like it showed on screen.
Well, I'm sure that was fun for her just to have fun and showing some range of emotions.
Sure.
I bet.
So, yeah, B minus. That's fair.
Okay. Trivia. Did you have any questions that you marked down? I don't think you do.
No.
'Cause I didn't see you write anything. Okay.
Sorry.
I didn't either. I was a little too tired during this episode to really focus in on things I wanted to ask you. Any awards that you wanted to give out for this episode? Have we ever awarded anything for gratuitous
No, but we should.
exploitation of
gratuitous award of some sort.
Yeah. It's got to be Star Trek related. I mentioned Baywatch earlier, but
Well, Babe Watch.
Babe Watch Award,
The
the
Babe
Trek
Watch.
Watch, Trek Watch Award.
Nah, without saying Babe Watch, it doesn't have any meaning.
Okay.
Well, 7 of 9 was arguably the first really big casting.
So the
for
seven of
section.
Boobs Award
The 7 of Boobs. I mean,
for gratuitous
the 7 of Boobs award for gratuitous gratuity.
for gratuity
gratuitous gratuity.
for gratuitous gratuity. That's the ticket right there. All right. So it's awarded to Jolene Blaylock and the showrunners multiple times during this episode.
Maybe even the showrunners deserve it more than her, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Any
Memorable moments.
yeah, other than them lubing each other up, I guess.
No. Well, wait. It was mildly amusing when Trip came down to decon, and it was clear something was going
Yes.
on. And he was like, hey, what's going on in
He was
there?
behind the glass.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it. Yeah. And she
Yeah.
was acting really weird.
She's acting funny. He's like,
Yes.
hey, is everything all right in there? He's like, hey, we're fine.
Close the door. Yeah.
And it was, just forgotten. That was kind of amusing.
I agree. I think worst moment, I didn't have a highlight. Everything was fine. But the worst moment, I think, was when she was coming on to Malcolm. And she said, oh, I know you stare at me on the bridge. I was like,
That was a little cringy.
what is this? I was like, is this like a 90210 episode? What happened all of a sudden? I was like, okay. Yeah, that was bad. I wish that hadn't happened, but it did. Okay. We did have no listener email responses per se this week, but we did have a new listener that came on to our YouTube channel. For a while, it had just been Kyle leaving comments, but we had someone drop by and leave a comment on our Dear Doctor episode, and it had a bit of spice to it. So it's a bit long, so bear with me. I would have liked to have... Oh, this is him reading it. Him speaking, by the way. From Alexander. I would have liked to have seen Archer to have the cojones to tell these poor dying people the truth. Quote, we have a treatment for what afflicts you. In fact, we could mass produce the cure and stop the dying immediately. No more children need to die. No more husbands need to lose their wives. No more orphans. We could stop the suffering and the grief. Your society does not have to die in fire, but we are going to do none of that. We are not going to give you the treatment because we believe the universe has chosen that you have to die, and we are not going to interfere with that because evolution. I realize it's ultimately the showrunner's decision, but the fact that he did not do that shows me that Archer knows deep down that his choice was morally reprehensible. Illnesses are also the product of evolution. They, quote, play God every single time they interact with anyone or anything. The reasoning in this episode was insane. Well, I replied, and I wanted to encourage Alexander to continue writing in. I said, yeah, it's a controversial topic, but thank you for writing in. As Justin and I mentioned, our opinion seems to disagree to yours, but I hope to get a lot more conversations out of this. Hope you write again. Alexander replied back to that with a little bit more sauce. I'm aware that, quote, some people would say this. And as I pointed out, I would then demand that those people go out to the Valachians and help them bury their babies, their husbands, their spouses, and their sisters for the next 200 years. I would also demand that they tell the Valachians to their faces the reason behind their decision to withhold treatment. They can then bring as large a bodyguard detail for that part as they want. Of course, I'm adding intonation to this email. I'm guessing at his emotional state, but I think that's what it would be like, don't you? Something like that.
It's. I'm a little tainted now, having heard your intonations.
Yeah,
but I agree with you. Yes, I think his tone is clear.
Now, from what he wrote, I'm not sure if he listened to our whole podcast.
I don't know if he did, but you know what? I appreciate that he wrote. For one thing.
Oh, sure.
I appreciate his honesty and sharing his personal opinion.
Yeah. We haven't gotten hate mail yet, but that was the most venomous comment we've gotten.
I wouldn't even say it was hate mail. I just think he was sharing his opinion. Yeah. And it was very
strong
much,
opinion.
He wasn't disagreeing with us at all. He was disagreeing with what the characters did.
Well, our decision was different than that.
Well, yes, but he wasn't calling us out. He was calling out the characters.
Ultimately, okay, well, fine, if you want to put it that way.
Well, I think that's fair to say. So, do you want to go?
Go what?
Would you like to address?
Well, no, you were addressing him. Go ahead.
I completely understand his attitude towards it because essentially that was Archer's point of view. And it was, Phlox had to be the not the moral voice. He had to be the, what would you call it? Not the voice of morality, but the voice of
Reason?
I guess it really, I was going to say that, but yeah, reason, which is, and it comes down to this. It is this simple. And that's the argument that Phlox makes. And no matter what you say, it comes down to this. Who are they, the crew of the Enterprise? Who are they to decide the
Fate of an entire
fate or the course of this culture? Like Malcolm says in Not Enterprise in Jurassic Park, when he says, he says, nature chose the dinosaurs for extinction. They had their shot and they lost. They're gone. Now it's us. Who are we to bring them back? You know? So I think there's a certain symmetry to that, you know, argument, which is, and that's why the Prime Directive exists. Who are we to decide this is the course of evolution for this culture, for this planet, for these people? No one is qualified to make those decisions. That's what nature is for. And that's what Phlox argues. He, of course, as a compassionate person, he wants to see all of them live and all of them be happy and well. No one's arguing that. But the culture of that planet had developed to where one group was dominant over another. And this thing of nature happened to where it looked very probable that the dominant race or species was going to fall. And the subject, I don't want to say it's not subjugated one, the lesser one would then rise to power. Who says that's bad? Who says that's good? No one is arguing that. It's just how it has to be. And if they, the crew of the Enterprise, injected something this big, we're not talking about the life of one person. We're talking about the changing of an entire planet. Who are they to do that on such a planetary scale? If it was one person or even a village, they'd probably do it. But that's not what this is. We're talking about an entire planet worth of people that they're going to change. Now, as Phlox points out, who's to say this dominant species, I forget what they were called.
The Valachians.
They
won't find a cure on their own.
Who says they won't find a cure? Maybe they will. And for all they know, the lesser
Mink.
The mink, maybe they'll find it. And they won't think anything of giving it to them. That's just how it's going to work. It's loaded. And it was something that loaded. You can't put a definitive answer on it. You can't. One of the obvious examples that comes up is TNG, the episode.
Who Watches the Watchers?
No. Data, help me.
Pen Pals.
Pen Pals. Her whole planet is going down because of volcanoes and all of that.
Right.
And they're all brought into Picard's quarters and they're talking about it as thoughtful human beings would. And at the end of the day, Picard makes the decision. He says, essentially, nature chose them. We cannot interfere with that. It's too big. And he doesn't like that decision. No one in the room likes that decision. And he tells Data, cut ties with her, let nature take its course, whatever that course is. And then we hear the Data, please help me. And then Picard, he steps out of line. Picard very knowingly breaks the Prime Directive and they intercede. And technically, they were wrong. They were wrong to do it. Morally, yes, of course. But their loophole, and they were very careful to do it in that episode, their loophole was she was asking for help. Now, you could argue that the Bringloidy,
I don't know where you're going.
Enterprise, the
Who?
Not the Mank, the other guys.
Oh, the Valachians.
The Valachians, the Bring Lloyd.
But that's from the TNG episode Up the Long Ladder.
Yeah,
I was like, where are you going with this?
No. The Valachians, they were asking for help, but they had the capacity to solve the problem themselves. Theoretically, there was no way Sarshenka's people were going to solve the volcanoes blowing up their planet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thin line, but there's some sort of difference. I totally understand the argument that he's making, but I do think at the end of the day, the episode and therefore the characters made the right choice. Made really, I think, the only choice a thoughtful person exploring the world, meeting a new culture can make in that situation. I really do. It's terrible. It's awful. But sometimes I think in the life of a Starfleet officer going to other planets, sometimes they're going to have to make that choice, and it's going to be hard. And no one said it's going to be easy. And that's my take.
Oh, you're done now?
I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah. Justin had mentioned me before.
You let me go
Justin
first.
had mentioned
I asked you to go first.
Before we started recording, like, why do I talk too much? I was like, well, I don't want to cut you off.
Well, that's why I offered for you to go first, but then you
well,
gave me
I mean,
the floor.
you're still going to go eventually. What difference does it make?
All right.
Well, I think our opinions are pretty much aligning to what we had said during the podcast.
Sure.
I shared the same view that you had. I think it does differ when it comes to if you're talking about an individual and then you got a whole society. I mean, I wanted to help the woman in Cogenitor. We weren't talking about affecting their whole society. I mean, it could have repercussions that would have, but we're talking about helping one person that was asking for help.
Right.
And then this is they use that phrase, playing God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And I probably said it in the podcast, and I'll say it here. I was like, I would have made that decision as
Right.
Phlox did.
Right.
Can't come in here and alter the evolution of this planet, no matter how much we want to help these people.
And this is
It's not
evolution
nature's,
that they're talking
It's not
about.
nature's course.
Yeah.
That's not what nature is deciding. And like you said, maybe it will turn out differently. But that's what Phlox said. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's not our decision to make.
Right.
We can't make this wide breadth of a decision that's going to impact a whole civilization. Who are we to do that? We can't. So to answer Alexander directly, yes, I would absolutely tell them, if I have to, about all of their dead husbands and sisters and wives. That's the job of the captain. If I were Archer, I'd have to do it. Would I help them bury him? I don't know about that.
I think
But-
well, let me ask you this.
yeah.
If that episode had been where there was no Mink and it was just the
Valachians.
Valachians,
Uh-huh.
and they were all just one race of people,
Mhm.
Do you think Phlox would have given them the cure?
Well, that's an interesting discussion.
And would
I don't know.
would he have been equally as honor bound not to give it to them, even if there was no other subjugated type race?
Well,
You could still make the argument that nature has chosen these people for extinction.
that is a good question. I don't know. I mean, there's less of a moral quandary because we're not dealing with another species mixed in. So
Yeah, but Picard did it. He saves Sarjenka's planet,
begrudgingly,
but he did it.
only because he heard her childlike voice over the radio.
But he shouldn't have, technically speaking.
Yes, technically speaking, he shouldn't have. Yes, of
He
course.
should have been court-martialed for that. He broke the biggest Starfleet
Which is why
rule.
they told O'Brien to go take a nap when they beamed her up.
Right.
I mean, they knew they were breaking the rules.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And believe it, since we mentioned New Trek, they actually did that in Into Darkness,
oh, right. The beginning.
the beginning,
Well,
where Kirk played God, and that's what Pike calls him out on. He goes, "You're playing God,"
yeah.
and he's trying to tell him you cannot do that.
I think I think maybe Archer would have been swayed to provide these people with a cure because the Prime Directive hasn't been invented yet. Picard probably wouldn't. He's learned what playing God means, and who watches the Watchers. He's seen it happen. It ends badly every time.
If my death will help you believe me, then shoot me.
And all you can do is shoot.
Very
good.
You really did it.
Very good reenactment there. Okay.
Would a god bleed?
Yeah. Oh, those proto-Vulcans and Vasquez rocks.
I know. If only he
So many planets look like
could
Southern
just
California.
fall into an explosion of slime and plants, and he could become Swamp Thing, and then, you know, all of that. Same actor, by the way.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that? Well, does that wrap it up on our discussion on Dear Doctor again?
I think we made our point.
Okay. Well, what's coming up next week? It's the season finale.
Season finale, The Expanse.
Part 1. Oh boy. So we're getting there. So we'll do The Expanse Part 1, and then we're going to do a season 2 recap. So that will be just like our season 1 recap. We'll
And I would genuinely, honestly prefer not to go through every single episode. I would be much more interested, to our listeners, if you gave us very specific questions to maybe hit key episodes or things that maybe you caught our podcast after a certain point, after we had done certain episodes. Maybe you noticed something that we mentioned that you would like to bring up and have us address. I would rather address the season at large throughout questions rather than go through a beat by beat.
Okay, well, this is Justin's ad-libbing here. We hadn't discussed that.
Well,
I mean, that's
hey,
fine with me if we get enough.
If we don't get enough questions,
If we get
then
enough
we'll do just
questions, I'm
that.
fine with that.
Yeah.
But so far, only a few people are submitting questions.
Well, you know, who knows?
I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Well, until next time, see you in The Expanse, or the beginning of it anyway.